Joaquin Phoenix was interviewed, and he said that he studied video footage of mental patients who are suffering from pathological laughter, which means they can't stop laughing. It's an actual mental condition. I didn't know anything about it until now. But his inspiration for his laugh comes from studying people who are suffering from pathological laughter. But, well, with the Joker in the comic books, I mean, he's the #1 most homicidal maniac killer out there. And, I mean, in Dark Knight alone, when he kills David Letterman and Dr. Ruth, and the whole TV audience, and then from there he makes it out to like Lagoon or Six Flags, and he's handing out poison candy cotton to kids, and there's a bird's eye view panel of a bunch of kids dead face down on the ground. I mean, he's dangerous. He's crazy. But in this movie, we're getting a picture of a guy who's been downtrodden, who's been stepped on by the machine, by the state.
It seems like they actually do a really good job of the 80s. I mean, I grew up in the New York area, and this is 80s New York. It looks that way.
Crime was out of control. I mean, this is a little bit before the 80s. I went to look it up. I think 78, maybe 77, probably 78. The Warriors came out, right? Which was all cutting edge and this and that about street gangs. And I was a kid, and the idea of the big cities was terrifying because of movies like The Warriors, which were not complete. It's Hollywood, but
right.
The street gangs were on the rise, and it was not like Fonzie in the 50s street gangs. It was or the Disciples and the Lords and on the coast, and actual gangs that were up to very much no good. And in the 70s, mid 70s, that's where you get the rise of the Bloods and the Crips, and in the 80s, they LA is a killing field, and there are gangs in New York. And I'm not sure, well, it's going to be Gotham, right? There is no New York, it's going to be Gotham. But the point
apparently, I mean, originally they were saying this in some of the early press material. They were saying it takes place in the 80s in New York, and I think it was just maybe the people, because the people who are making this film aren't comic book people, which will be interesting. So
yeah. Joaquin Phoenix was interviewed, and he said that he studied video footage of mental patients who are suffering from pathological laughter, which means they can't stop laughing. It's an actual mental condition. I didn't know anything about it until now. But his inspiration for his laugh comes from studying people who are suffering from pathological laughter.
And I love that scene because because when I didn't know that that's what had happened, I thought that he was actually just like rehearsing. It looks like he's rehearsing.
Right.
He's rehearsing for the part in a show that he's doing. But because he stopped so short, it seems like he's rehearsing, but he's not. Or maybe he is, maybe he's not.
Some psychologist once said, and I don't know who it was, that give me enough time and resources, and I can paint a sympathetic picture of Adolf Hitler. His father was abusive.
Right.
His mother died of cancer as a kid. He's a failed artist. And to be clear, I'm not doing that. But with the Joker in the comic books, I mean, he's the #1 most homicidal maniac killer out there, and I think this is very sad. Apparently, it's a state psychologist or whatnot. And she's interviewing him, and he's like, "You're not listening to anything I'm saying. All of my thoughts are negative." It's very. And then on one of the previous scene from this, he's all battered and bruised. I think that's from one of the previous trailers where he's out there, flipping a sign, whatever for sale, and some thugs come up and take his own sign and beat him with it. Well, it's going to be a dark show.
And the sign, I can't help but be slightly reminded of Breaking Bad, because there's always, they always find a guy working a sign who's got the skinny on the skinny Pete or the so and so has the skinny on where to get the meth from or something like that, and he's always the guy working.
The guy twirling the signs got all the 411 on the street. What's going on in the street?
Anyway,
yeah.
But because I just couldn't help it because we were talking about Breaking Bad on the channel a lot recently. So once again, method acting. He does a great job here. He loses so much weight that he's just skinny. He's skinny.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's hard to do.
To the point where it's like, someone get that man a Twinkie and maybe go see a doctor. Just disturbingly amount of weight loss.
And it reminds me of Nightcrawler.
Jake
Gyllenhaal. Thank you, Jake Gyllenhaal, and his when he does the Nightcrawler movie, he was just the same way. He was skin and bone pretty much. And he ate snow peas for I think it was 20 days, just snow peas only. It's like, how the hell?
When I was a little boy and told people I was going to be a comedian, everyone laughed at me. Well, no one's laughing now. You can say that again, pal.
So they're making fun of him big time here, and I actually do love the idea. I mean, wasn't this the same type of story that was in The Killing Joke?
Correct.
Same type of story going on there?
Comics been around for a long time. Lots of differences than that. But in my book, The Killing Joke is the definitive.
It's perfect.
It's the definitive answer on where the Joker comes from and what it's all about, why he hates Batman so much. I don't, spoiler alert, if you have not read The Killing Joke, then just turn it off now, because you need to go read it for yourself. It explains, it answers all the questions. Why does the Joker hate the Batman? And it's answered. And why is he the Joker? Well, he's a failed stand-up comedian who decided, I'm going to do one night of crime to pay for, get all the money I have to take my wife who's pregnant and get her proper medical treatment. And then she dies tragically, and then he's forced into fulfill his obligations for the criminal one night of criminal activity. It's a phenomenal read. And then there's a subcontext of the Batman reaching out to the Joker, and why are we at this? Joker, all he knows is I've got traumatic loss, aka my pregnant wife, and somehow or another the Batman is involved, and he chooses to go insane because it helps deal with the pain. And then one of the best lines in the I'm sure it's been used since then, but
would that be hilarious? You're actually at that crossroads, and you're having to make the choice. Do I step off this edge and allow myself to be completely engulfed in insanity, or do I actually try harder? And it's like, right. Yeah, that's a scary thing.
One of the best lines in the Killing Joke is, Batman. There's a Joker set up an elaborate, death traps everywhere, and he's talking on a PA system to Batman. It's like, what? He says, what caused you? His whole premise is anybody can have a bad day, and if you have a bad day, it can toss you over the edge. And so he's talking to Batman over a PA system and said, well, you had a bad day. What would possess someone to dress up like a flying rat? And then he said, well, what, your girlfriend killed by the mob? Something. He's just kind of, he's making guesses at what it could be, but he said, you, Batman, had a bad day. And it's a phenomenal read. And so here we are finally. They're bringing it together that the Joker is a failed stand-up comedian, and Joaquin Phoenix. Through all the characters of the Joker and all the different comic books, he's got a bit of a horse-type face. He's got awkward features, and I'm not ripping on Joaquin, but with the weight loss, and I'm sure with the magic of makeup, they're really kind of exaggerating the horse face there and.
Yeah.
The new Batman with Christian Bale, the second movie that did Joker, Heath Ledger.
Yes.
Heath Ledger did a phenomenal job of channeling the darkness that is the Joker.
His whole concept was a completely different concept too. I love that there's a kind of a rebirth happening in different ways, and they're looking in different directions. His original concept was directed specifically at Clockwork Orange. It was a direct emulation of a Clockwork Orange, and that was Nolan's idea. That was his. He said, watch Clockwork Orange and get ideas from that, and he just went right to it and did his whole thing. And that's why. And if you notice, he even walks in kind of like that. Even when he's walking in with he's tall, but he's able to hunch over, and he does the same type of thing that the creepy Clockwork Orange guys did. So
right. Okay, that makes more sense to me. But great. But I think this is going to be even better.
Yeah.
And
I just hope my 2 cents on this, just before I forget about it. There apparently there's going to be a horrible version of a Trump character, like there's going to be a Donald Trump character in this movie. Hopefully it's not just so much on the nose that it just pisses everybody off. And if it does, then it might, the film will lose money. I guarantee you that.
On that note, focusing on the story, as I understand it, Joaquin Phoenix and his female actress counterpart, they looked at the script. They said, okay, I think the gal said it's a great script, but what they wound up doing is Joaquin and Zazie Beetz, I think her name.
Yes.
They would spend the night writing new dialogue for the next day's shoot, and then during makeup and hair, they'd work on their lines, and then they would shoot the scene, and they did that for the remainder of. So at some point during production, Joaquin and Zazie started rewriting the whole movie. The whole movie. That's quite which tells me that Joaquin really got invested in the character, got invested in what makes him tick. So that to me says it's either going to be a phenomenal hit or it's going to be an epic fail.